name is Miguel. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, born and raised there. I'm the oldest of four. Have three amazing sisters and amazing parents. So whenever I used to share my testimony before, I'd always say that I didn't grow up in a Christian home because I had no memory of going to church. And I only remembered going for like holiday stuff, Easter, Christmas, and stuff like that. And my dad one day called me out on it, and he's like, "Why do you say you didn't grow up going to church? We were in church all the time. We had Bible studies. We were there on Wednesdays. We had people over." And he's like, "How do you not remember any of that?" And thinking back now, that's when I was going through some of my abuse that my family did not know what was happening. So it started at the age of 6 with a male cousin who was a year younger than me and also physically smaller. And so I think at that moment, I already started believing like, no one's gonna believe you because he's smaller than you. He's younger than you. Why didn't you just push him off or something like that? And so that journey of just confusion and the abuse, it kind of showed itself in other ways where I was introduced to pornographic material by other male cousins, and I was also molested by other cousins and an uncle. Like I said, I never told my family about it. And being the only boy out of 9 granddaughters, I never felt comfortable in my own skin. My father is very artistic, and so am I. And I just remember enjoying the prettier things. And right away, that already started shaping the way I thought about myself. I recognized that I was different. Then bullying kind of came up when school started as well. From a very early age, I just remember boys always making fun of me. I remember the first time I started hearing Miguel's gay, and the boys would start chanting that at school. And before I kind of understood what that meant and the history of abuse, like it continued on from, like I said, the age 6. It kind of stopped around 17. My parents didn't understand what was happening to me because I was very rebellious. I was very just closed off, and my relationship with my dad was really rocky. And it wasn't until recently, like the Lord just kind of revealed, I always thought my father had a wall up against me, and realizing that I was abused by a male uncle at an early age, where whenever my father tried to embrace me or hug me, I would push him away. And I remember seeing how affectionate he was with my sisters and having pet names for them. And, you know, in the Hispanic culture, I don't know why we do this, but like we call our children like mama and papa. And I remember him calling my sisters mama. And in my own little mind, I asked him, I'm like, "Why don't you call me mama?" And he was like, "Well, because you're a boy." And I think right then and there, that's when another lie came in. Like, if I wasn't a boy, then maybe I would get the hugs and the kisses like my sisters did. I remember just being really discouraged and just kind of hopeless because, again, we went to church, so I had an understanding that what is happening, what I'm feeling is not okay, but I'm like, this is just who I am. If people are saying this is me and this has been me since I was a kid, how can I change from this? So I became pretty suicidal as well. And sadly, my family had to witness that. But even then, like in my darkness, like not even knowing the Lord, he was always there. Like the ways that I tried to take my life should have took my life, but the Lord's hand was there. and he didn't allow it to happen. He's so kind. He is so kind. So I think my freshman year of high school, I ended up checking myself into a mental institution, and I was struggling with suicide and all these thoughts and the demonic. Whenever I looked at myself in the mirror, I didn't see this. Like, I've always been a big boy, big husky boy, but when I looked in the mirror, I saw this thing that it was neither male or female. It was like this beautiful thing. And I really believe that was just the enemy just deceiving me even more, and believing that maybe I shouldn't have been a boy. So in and out of the mental institution, and that's where I met my first gay friend, and he's the one that introduced me to drag. And so throughout high school, instead of being bullied and being made fun of, I'm like, I'm just gonna embrace what this has been spoken over me, all these feelings that I've ever felt. And so I came out on my freshman year of high school. I came out to my parents in the mental institution, and I know that was really hard for them. What I really wanted was just affection from my dad, and to kind of understand, like, why is this happening? Why do I have these thoughts? And there was no language for it, you know. I remember encountering Christians at an early age as well, and I was extremely flamboyant. I had makeup and my purse. I had purses, and I would have acrylics and stuff like that. And I remember people telling me that I was going to go to hell. I had someone telling me that I was going to die of a disease. And now fast forward, I'm in my late teens and adult life, and young adult life, and I'm living with this girl from high school and her boyfriend, who happened to be my one of the worst bullies in my grammar school years. He was a drug dealer, and he opened the world to me to drugs. But with the demonic and all the darkness in my life, I had a lot of unforgiveness. And one of the people that I struggled with forgiving was the bully, who was the drug dealer. So in my heart, I planned on seducing him and sleeping with him, and pretty much just saying, like, look who's gay now. And I remember that I would ask the devil to give me power over men, and the men that I targeted specifically were straight men, because those were the ones that made fun of me the most, you know. And I remember it happening. I was a homewrecker, you know, just being with men that had girlfriends. I think one guy was possibly married. But again, the way that I carried myself and how I lived my life, I didn't care anymore about myself. I didn't care about who I hurt. I had hurt a lot of people along the way. My relationship with my family was just in shambles. And again, this was all coming from just a broken little boy just saying, who's gonna love me? Who's gonna help me understand what I'm feeling? How the Lord enters into the scene was the girl that I was living with. Her mom was this fireball of a woman. She was living in Florida, and the Lord told her to leave Florida and move to Chicago. She moves in with us, and this is a house of darkness. Like, how she described it, she said she remember walking up to the house, and she said she saw the house covered in demons. And she's like, what am I getting myself into? She gets into the house, And this is her telling me all of this. She heard the Lord, and the Lord said, there's someone in this house you need to help save. Sorry. I'm so grateful that she was so open to hearing the Lord and that she was obedient. She thought it was her daughter. And the Lord highlighted me, and she told me, she kind of chuckled and she's like, Lord, there is no way. She said, okay, Lord, if you want me to speak to that boy, you need to make a way. Well, when you put a bunch of Puerto Ricans under one household, we're going to step on each other's toes and there's going to be arguments. Well, a big fight broke out in the house. And I didn't want her to get hurt. So I pulled her into my bedroom and closed the door. And she knew that was her opportunity to share the gospel with me. And that's when love entered the room. The way that she looked at me was so different from how I've been looked at by many people. There was just love in her eyes, and kindness and safety. And she just looked with boldness and she said, this is not the life that God has for you. God has something else for you. I wish I would have said it, and that's the moment when all the Shekinah glory broke loose and I got saved, but I was stubborn and I was just like, oh, okay. But I knew there was something different about her. So fast forward, we all move out. We get a place together. Me, I'll give her name. Her name's Sandra. She's my spiritual mama. And her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend were living in this house. And the boyfriend told her, if you're going to live with us, you cannot pray. And she was like, well, I'm leaving. And she asked me, she's like, come with me. She said, if you stay with them, it's going to get bad. But I wasn't ready to let go of the drugs and the secret hooking up that I was having with the boyfriend. And I didn't move with her. And I regret that I did, because I feel like that's when it just got, like she said, it got really worse. Like depression was very much real. Again, at that point, whenever I would look into the mirror, I saw that thing more and more. So I was embracing that identity more. And, I had thoughts of like, maybe I should get like breast implants and hip implants and just embrace this identity. And I just spiraled out into even more darkness and hooking up even more and more drugs and more drinking. And I remember finally just like reaching out to Sandra, and I was like, okay, I might try this Jesus thing out. So I called her and asked her that I'm like, okay, I need help. I want to do this thing. And she's like, well, why don't you start coming to church with me? So I started going to church. Oh my gosh. And that was interesting because, again, how I carried myself, like pencil thin eyebrows, and just my demeanor was just a hot mess. I was extremely flamboyant, and I didn't want anything to do with Christians because of what has been told to me, that I was going to die of a disease or go to hell. So I remember just crying out, like, just help. And that's all he needed. He just needed me to finally just surrender and invite him. And for some reason, homosexuality and the Hispanic culture don't blend well together. It's almost as if it's like a cold, like somebody can catch. So there was a lot of walls with people in that church. So the pastor also gave me a book to read, and it's called At the Altar of Sexual Idolatry. Again, the way that I lived my life, I would be walking home from work and men would follow me home. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're going to go do this thing. So I would just invite them in. And I remember I just got tired of that. And I called one of the guys and I said, I want to give into porn. And there's a guy outside my door that I want to let in. What do I do? And there was like this awkward pause. And he was like, I don't know how to help you. And that lie of you don't belong or you're not really one of the guys started taking root. So I would call Sandra, and Sandra would just pray. She would just pray on the phone with me until that desire went away until that guy left. And then the pastor's like, we think you need a little more help. So they sent me to this ministry in Kentucky called Pure Life Ministries. And the author of that book started this ministry. It was a live-in facility for men who struggled with sexual addiction from all forms. So it wasn't just homosexuality, from the guy who struggled with pornography to the guy who picked up prostitutes. I had a counselor named Brother Brad who loved me really well. And that was his testimony as well, that he came out of homosexuality. And I remember one day at the ministry, I was shaving, and it was as if the Lord just pulled back the veil, and I saw me for the first time. And I started crying, and I saw that I'm a big dude. Like, I can do some damage, and like I can defend myself and protect myself. And I think because of my first abuse was somebody physically smaller than me, younger than me, I just had this understanding of me that I was weak and that I was frail. Like I could never really see the full me. So when I saw Miguel and I saw the man that was like looking back at me in the mirror, I started crying. I ran frantically to my counselor, Brother Brad, and I'm like, I'm a man. And he's just like, yeah, you are, but like, I don't think he understood. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see this man. I didn't see this strong, masculine looking man. And so that was like the beginning of the Lord starting to heal my masculinity. And I had a buddy that I met at that ministry that moved to Texas. And he said, well, why don't you come out to Texas and check it out? And I was still pretty young in my faith. And I was like, okay, well, I'm a Christian, so I need to do Christian work. So I should go to seminary. So I toured Criswell College in Dallas, but I've always had this passion for cooking. And I checked out Le Cordon Bleu, and I felt like the Lord was saying, like, you should come here. So I went to culinary school, and I knew that one day I wanted a family as well. But again, I didn't find women attractive at all. I was the best friend. I would tell them what makeup to wear and how to walk in heels. Like, how am I gonna be attracted toward a woman? But my life scripture that I still hold on to is Jeremiah 32:26. And it's, behold, I am the Lord, I am the God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me? There isn't. So to take a man that was extremely flamboyant and to start healing him, and little by little, I started finding women attractive. It was something simple to like, oh, I like her purse. Then I started looking at the woman holding the purse to like, wow, she's really pretty. And more, this attraction started building toward women. And I remember I would start asking girls out at my church, and they were kind, but I was never shy about my testimony. And they would always say, like, you're a nice guy, but I don't know if I can be with a guy with your kind of story. And I kept praying and asking the Lord to help me to be the man that He's designed me to be. And I remember one day I was living in Dallas, and I felt like everything was going really well for me. But I felt like I needed more of the Lord. And I said, Lord, I'll go wherever you want me to go. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just give me more of you. And the next day I got an email from a girl that I flirted with a year prior. We met at a party, and she was really fun, and we talked, but I asked for her phone number. She's like, I'm moving to England, so you do whatever with that. So I didn't really embrace that. I was like, okay, whatever. So getting that email the next day, she was like, hey, I remember you said you were a chef, and we need a chef at our missions organization. Would you be interested? So I prayed on it, and the Lord, I believe, gave me a desire for England since I was a kid. I don't know why, but I think it was for that time. I remember telling my mom as a child that I was going to go to England one day. So I went to England, and I met this amazing woman. Her name is Linda Lisa. I remember her just inviting me out. It was like day 3 for me at this ministry. And she said, hey, a couple of us are going to the pub. Do you want to come with? And one of Lisa's ways of getting to know people, she's like, tell me your story. So here I am at a pub with 3 other girls. And I was like, I already know where this is going to go. These girls are going to shut me down or whatever. So I'm like, I don't care. So I gave them all the details and all the raunchy bits. And here they are, all 3 of them are weeping as I'm telling my story. And Lisa goes home and journals that night. She said, Lord, I don't know what it is about this guy, but there's something special about him. And through my time at this missions organization, we became really close. We became really good friends. And well, fast forward, the Lord had used her to heal me, to bring healing into my life, because I never saw myself correctly. I saw myself as a less than man and a less than Christian because of my struggle with homosexuality, because the lie was, you struggle with this, it's worse than all this other stuff. And I didn't know that was a lie. I just bought into that. But every time I believed that lie, she would always encourage me. She's like, I don't know who this man is that you keep talking about, because I don't see that man. This is the man that I see. And she was calling forth my identity that I was not seeing as a son, as a whole man. And I remember the first time I felt love for her, that I loved her. I'm like, here I am, I love a woman, and I'm drawn to her. Like, she is the most beautifulest creature I've ever seen. And I just remember how the Lord was healing those things those prayers that I used to cry myself to sleep with, to help me to find women attractive and all this stuff. And so we date, and then from dating, I decide to propose, and now we've been married. This December will make 9 years, and we have an incredible son named Ezra. And he's also a miracle, because when we decided to start a family, I wanted a girl because I felt like it would be easy to raise a girl. I know girls, but the Lord in his kindness decided to give me a son, because he knew that I would have to rely on him to raise a son. And it's still my prayer that the Lord will continue to father me and teach me on how to raise a godly man. And now I love our life. And whenever you catch me at church in worship, sometimes the only thing I can say is thank you. Sorry, because I would have never dreamed this life for me, that I would be married to a woman that loves me. And she's always seen me the right way. And I have a son that loves me, and I get to love him and teach him about the Lord. And I can embrace him and hug him and kiss him all the time. And now I'm worshiping. I'm in a church worshiping, I'm like, I'm not strung out on drugs. I'm not in a bed with a stranger. Here I am just lifting my hands up saying, Jesus, you are worthy. Jesus, you are faithful. You are kind. Like, it blows my mind that this is my life. I'm very involved in my church. My wife and I lead a small group. I'm a part of the prophetic team. And again, I'm grateful for the heart that he's given me because I am sensitive to his voice. I get to walk in the Father's heart and call others into that as well. And my heart is to encourage people that are struggling with same-sex attraction or are in the LGBTQ lifestyle that this God of the universe, he can change any heart. It may seem impossible. It may even seem like there's no way, this is just who I am. But let the one who created you, the one that knows you, that has spoken your identity into existence, let him be the one to tell you who you are. And my journey with him has always been just about embracing being a son. And I follow the Lord and I love the Lord, not because of all the blessings he's given me. Like, if he never brought me a wife and never brought me a son, I will still say, Jesus, you are worthy and thank you for this life, because I'm sitting here in my right mind. Depression is not, it's not a master over me anymore. Sexual addiction is not a master over me. Drugs and alcohol does not own me. Like, I'm sitting in an identity that I would never have dreamed of, that I am whole, that I am seen and known by the living God. And I want that for anybody, not just those who struggle with same-sex attraction, but for unbelievers that don't know him, that the living Almighty God has a plan and a purpose, and his desire is to reveal his love and affection for his children and draw them in and be in unity with them. And now I have a place at his table and I didn't think I would. And I love him. I love him so much. And I always tell people, this is the man that I've longed for, that I looked for. The man who has no bad intentions, he doesn't have secret motives in his hands. When he comes near me, it's not because he's trying to fool me into anything, but he just wants to reveal more of himself. And he is my lover, he is my husband, he is my king, he's everything to me. And I wouldn't be here if he didn't come in like a flood when I cried out that one time, when I just eked out this little thing like, help. And he just came in, and I've been following and loving him since.